Hey guys, welcome back to Just Fixing Garage. I'm Justin. If you see behind me, we're working on a Beetle again today. I believe it's the 2002 1.8 liter with the 5-speed manual. So we're getting a code regarding the secondary air pump. So we're going to take a look at that, make sure there's no cracked hoses, and likely replace the part. We're going to see if we can do it better from the top or the bottom. We're going to obviously show you what works best for us and show you all the tools along doing it. So if you're getting this code, and I'll show it on the screen here, be sure to follow along. We'll show you how we fixed it and other things to look for. So let's get started. All right, guys, first thing you want to do is open up your hood, take off the engine cover if it's in your way, and if you look down here, this is our air pump that we're getting the code for. Now, just because you're getting that code doesn't mean that the air pump is bad. Technically, it could mean that there's some cracks in your hoses for like insufficient flow and such. So what we first did is we were looking at our hoses here for cracks. You want to check these two out. One goes to your intake manifold or your intake, air intake, and then the other one, I believe, goes somewhere maybe to the EGR. So we were looking through and kind of tracing these tubes, looking for any obvious cracks. I actually think these were replaced before because they're not very brittle for the age, and I would have expected them to be kind of damaged. But check, make sure everything is connected, it's getting a good seat. And if it's not and you have a broken hose, they do sell some of the hoses on Amazon, so you can just swap it out or repair them. But if you've done all that and it still seems like it's a problem, I don't know what other way you can test other than really just swapping the part out. I would not suggest getting one from a dealer or AutoZone or Advance because they are ridiculously overpriced. You can go to Amazon and get it for like 40 bucks compared to like 150 to 250 bucks. So we're gonna see about removing this part because all of our hoses look okay, and then we'll follow up and show you how we're gonna do it. All right, guys, so hopefully you're following along all right. So I wanted to get the battery out of the way. I think the best way to do this is to get the battery out, take our power steering reservoir out here. Battery's held in for the actual clamps of the battery for two 10mm. Take each one out, slide that out, and then down there's a bracket holding, or a clamp holding down the battery. That was a 13mm in my case. So I've gotten that out as well. Now I am looking down here to see what's probably a 10mm bolt holding on this reservoir. There's also two hoses. I'm gonna see if I can pull this up first and get the hoses off. Might make a little mess, but I'm thinking in my mind that if I get this off, I can slide this part off with this bracket. So that's what I'm hoping for, because I don't wanna have to take the intake off and the fuel rail. So if this is the easiest way, it's what I'm gonna do. So just keep watching along. Two 10mm bolts, 13mm bolt. I'm gonna see if that's a 10 down there. You can kind of see straight down, there's a bolt. I'm gonna try to take out and then pull this up and undo the hoses. So let's see where that gets us. All right, guys, so what I've worked on so far is I took this top hose off just using pliers for the clamp. I took the 10mm bolt out that I showed you earlier. It's hard to see, you can see the hole there now. I'm working on this clamp here. You're able to move this up and kind of get some pliers in there. Again, you want your battery out or you're not gonna get your hand in here. Clamp is loose, I'm gonna have to wiggle it back and forth. As soon as you do this and this comes off, fluid's gonna start gushing out. I'm gonna try to put my finger over it and then set this on its side so it doesn't lose as much. Worst case scenario is I have to dump out this fluid and start fresh. Not a big deal, probably could use fresh fluid anyway. Just be ready for that. That's what I'm gonna take out next. And after that, I think just this bracket is gonna be in my way and then I can pop this pump out. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping I don't have to take this coolant hose neck off, but we'll see. I still think this is the easier method. But just follow along, I'm gonna get this off and then I'll reevaluate where I'm at for the next part. Hey guys, I know you're watching me work, you're probably interpreting what I'm doing, but what I did next is I pulled off this, after I got the reservoir out, I took the 10mm out of here, that gave me slack here. I started unclipping things and I almost had this out. I think the only thing really holding me up is the plug, which I need to pretty much disconnect from there. I'm gonna try to get my hand in there to do it. And then I may be able to slide this out. If it doesn't come out, what I probably have to do is unclip one of these coolant lines to be able to slide it out. I don't think I'm gonna have to, but if I do, I will tell you. It would probably be this clamp here I try to take off so I could slide this out of the way. But let me see where I'm at after I get this plug out. But now I'm trying to get the plug out. So I'm taking the battery out, taking the reservoir out. That was just 10mm, 13mm, 10mm clamps, and this is where I'm at. So we're only into this probably about 15-20 minutes if I'm not stopping and filming. But I pulled off these clamps. These are pinch style clamps. You just got to pinch and pull them. Where you see these little grips, that's where you pinch to slide them off. They came off easy. So now again, I'm just working on the plug. So let me get that plug out, see if this comes out. If not, I'll do the coolant thing and I'll show you. That'll be messy and I don't want to do it. All right guys, quick recap. I was hoping to do this without taking any coolant loss, but I was struggling. So I took off the clamp back here that connected to that neck down there. So pretty much, you know, you'll follow this line up. Took that off, it let me slide it out of the way. And then I was able to slide this over. Now I can see my clip to get it off. It's too tough back there, but I wiggled it through. So assuming I get this unplugged, I should be able to pop the new one in, reverse all my installation, add some coolant, of course, and some power steering fluid and be good to go. So keep following along. I'm gonna try to get this clip off, hopefully without breaking anything. It looks really annoying. I don't know how it comes off yet. It looks like a push style, but when I tried to push it, it wasn't working. So let me keep going, and hopefully this is somewhat helpful. It's not a lot of work, just now it's messy. Well guys, we got it out. I was an idiot when I was doing the plug. For some reason I thought this was going to separate from this, but what you want to do is hold down on this while you pull the other side of the clip. I completely look like an idiot doing that, but we got it out of there. So after all this is out of your way, you can easily get in there. I've only taken off a few things, so don't let this scare you on how it looks. It's really not as complicated. It's not very complicated. It's like I have 3 bolts over here that I've taken fully off, and then 2 on that clamp down the power and negative to the battery. So it's really not bad at all. So I've got my new and old over here. Don't be afraid to show it. So everything comes capped. When I dumped this, there's actually water inside of our old one. I don't know if that's what's making it go bad or not, but regardless, that was definitely a problem. So now that I'm looking at the new and old, I think I may have to, did it come with new rubber booties? Yes, oh good, see look at that, it came with new rubber booties. So if yours doesn't come with new rubber booties, you're gonna have to swap them over. But in our case, it came with new rubber ones. No nut though, right? Just,
no.
Okay. So we're gonna mimic the settings here, and copy over all of these little rubber booties. They really just hold this into place, but didn't come with any nut, right?
Nope.
Yeah, and there was no nut on that one, so I'm guessing that's not a thing. It just sat in there for us. So, so let me go ahead and get these all done. Actually, I could probably just keep doing it on the video. That's 2, and that is 3. I was getting ready to transfer them over, Brad, so I'm glad you showed me there was new ones. Because it's not uncommon for parts like this, like think about the radiator feet and all that stuff, to copy them over. But there's a new part, those are old. We should be able to come over here, drop this in, plug it in before I shove it way back, or maybe I won't. I can probably push the wiring back now that I got it off. But I'm gonna get that in, and I'll show you the next steps on installation. So let me get to it. Hey guys, so upon installing this, I didn't realize that when we were pulling this out that there was bolts that actually were holding this in. You can barely see them, but there they are. Ours wasn't connected anymore, so we didn't have any problem getting it out. They're 10 millimeter. I'm gonna go through and take them out because I do want to bolt the new one in any way I can. So there are 3 bolts back here that you can get to. I'm using I'm gonna use a 1/4" ratchet, like a little stubby one. You see here, to get in there and do that. I'm gonna take those out and then hopefully just slide the new part in, plug it in. But again, when we were pulling this out, we didn't have any problem because it was so dry rotted. I mean, you can see one, or maybe you can't, still has the boot on it. It just completely was torn. So let me get those out before I slide the new one in and bolt it in, and then we'll be almost done. All right, guys, so a couple things that I'm gonna call out here. You're probably supposed to take all this off, this intake manifold and everything to do this. Ours came off because it was so old, and you probably could just rip this off if you couldn't get the bolts out. But I did take all 3 bolts out so I could slide the new one in. But I'm really only able to get to 1 nut on there to tighten it, and I'm not gonna remove all this to get more bolts in there. This part doesn't worry me of going anywhere. Everything is in there. Sure, there's probably another way to do it, but you might add 1 or 2 hours to the job to put 2 bolts in that are not really relevant. It's on rubber housers anyway. What I'm expecting is once my hoses are on, it'll hold this in like it was before. This was floating before, nothing was holding it in. I did get my plug back in. I don't know if you'll be able to tell from the video, I ran the plug through, connected, and then pushed it back. If you're struggling to get this in and out of the hole, you have to take the part with the wire and angle that in first. Imagine like getting a couch around a corner and you gotta do like the arm first. Just imagine that wire sticking out is like that extra bunch. That has to go through at an angle, and then you can slide everything in. If you try to push this straight through, you're gonna struggle because it's gonna hit the wire. So again, angle it in where the wire goes in first, and then cup it back and push it through. So that got me there. Now I'm gonna run through and do everything in reverse that I did before. I'm gonna start by putting my coolant hose back on, then I'll move this bracket down and click all my hoses onto this. Once that's done, it's gonna be the reservoir, and I'll bolt that back down. You can actually see the bolt hole there, and then put my battery back in. I probably won't speak again until I'm done, but if you took it off, I hopefully think you can put it back together. So I'm gonna work my way through and do that. And as you can see, I don't have a lot of extra hardware here. I'm not gonna probably be able to use these nuts that came out. These are the ones that were broken already. Then, I've got my reservoir, my battery clamp, and then this is for that bracket up top. So not a lot of hardware to take off. I'm gonna get to it and you guys can follow along. Alright guys, so on the timer it took me 15 minutes to put everything back together. I'm going to try to recap on everything that I did to put it back together. So I got the new part in there, that was all clamped in. The next part I did was hook my coolant line back up, which you can see the clamp there. Make sure you get your clamp back on there. I also had a little tiny hose to hook back up, which I can't really see from here, but I did hook that back up. Once that was on, I put my bracket back on, used the plastic things to hook everything where it's supposed to go for the coolant line, and this air hose line, I put those all back in. Then I put my bottom clamp and hose back on the bottom of the power steering reservoir. Set that in, used the 10 millimeter bolt that you can kind of barely see again down there. Bolted that down. Got my top hose on as well, and that was good to go. After that was done, I used brake cleaner to clean up a lot of the power steering fluid that was lost. I actually dumped this out. I put fresh fluid in it because I didn't feel like dealing with it, and plus it was black, so it was dirty, needed to be changed anyway. Okay, and then I put the battery back in, and you got to angle it in and out. I got my terminals back on, I got my clamp back on, make sure your battery's snug. And I went through and checked everything. Everything is tight, good to go. And I think we're ready to start it after I put the power steering fluid in there. We're gonna need some coolant, but we should be able to run it okay without some of the coolant we lost. I'm gonna see what I have around here, but make sure you top off your coolant, top off your power steering fluid, and then give this a test. Hopefully it helped you out a bunch, because I think I'm gonna guess the shop manual says you gotta take this off. And since I only put one bolt in here, I didn't have to do that. And again, it's fine in here. It's not going anywhere. It's got one bolt holding it, and the studs are still there. I feel completely confident with that. So does the owner. We don't care, because taking all this out, another hour or so of labor, new gaskets, and stuff falling in the intake, it's just not worth it. And if your bolts were good when you had to take this out, you can just pull it through. It's just rubber. It's gonna rip. So that's why we're not too worried about it. So everything's plugged in. We're gonna hope for the best. I hope it's good to go. So if this helped you at all, please like, subscribe, share the video, and have a great day. See ya.